This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.
Welcome to the Public Safety Subcommittee of Finance and Appropriations. I'll start by asking staff to please call the roll.
Senator Eben,
Here.
Senator Lucas,
Here.
Senator Marsden,
Here.
Senator McDougal,
Here.
Senator Pillion,
Here.
Senator Hashmi. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Today we'll review several bills to make recommendations to the full committee meeting later this morning. Patrons who present their bills to the subcommittee this morning do not need to attend the full committee later. Many of the bills are referred to us this morning are commonly known as Woodrum bills. The Code of Virginia requires a deposit to the Corrections Special Reserve Fund for any bill that would impact the number of beds needed in adult correctional facilities. Then, if time allows, staff will review budget amendments submitted by members. We'll start by hearing the bills before us. Katie, please call the first patron.
Senator Reeves.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members.
Good morning.
Before you have Senate Bill 861, and 861 really is a technical cleanup bill. There was a code section that in it under 182-57 that said basically police, and by that term police, that excluded sheriffs from being able to charge that code because they're not police officers. The word was replaced with law enforcement, so it was standardized throughout the code. I don't know how long it's been like that, but that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
This was a unanimous recommendation from the Courts of Justice Committee. Do members of the committee have any questions for Senator Reeves?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if there's we put in a budget amendment because we just weren't sure. I don't think it.
A Woodrum amendment, that's
Yeah,
all that's
yeah.
required. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next senator on the list, I don't see Senator Williams Graves or Senator Bagby, so the next senator would be Senator Deeds.
I've got two bills, and you've seen them both before. You've seen versions, or you've seen 1181 is a bill that basically passed out of the Senate twice, was vetoed last year by the governor. It's basically the thing that's changed from last year is just the date. It bans the possession, sale, or transportation of assault-style firearms after July 1. That's 1181.
Members are familiar with Senator Deeds' bill. Are there any questions? Okay. This was recommended by Courts of Justice, and as he said, was nearly identical to last year's bill. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. Unless there's discussion, we will vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, we'll record the 2 noes, I guess.
Okay, 1182 is a version of a bill I had last year. It was in response to the tragic set of circumstances that occurred in the fall of 2022 in Charlottesville when 3 football players were killed on a bus. This bill bans the possession of firearms on college campuses, but last year or college buildings on college campuses, when we had the bill last year, that's basically what it did. The governor vetoed the bill and said that the bill ignored regional differences throughout the Commonwealth. Well, I didn't think that was much of a message, but this bill addresses that by saying that if boards of visitors pass the policies, it bans it at a particular college campus. It's not a statewide bill. It just authorizes the Board of Visitors to enact a policy to keep firearms out of buildings. And there are amendments to make sure that You know, if the firearm is part of the training, say at VMI or with our ROTC program, that's perfectly all right. But still, a Board of Visitors would have the ability to enact a policy that would have the force of law.
Okay, and I understand there's an amendment in nature.
And I apologize for that, Mr. Chair. There is an amendment in nature, a substitute between here and House. There was some language that needed to be cleaned up to carry out what I just described, and that's what the amendment does.
Okay, there's a motion to adopt the amendment in nature of a substitute and a second. All in favor of adopting that, will say aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay. Now, we have the bill before us, slightly changed from last year. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I guess the amendment's in paper. I haven't actually seen it yet, but why can't a Board of Visitor do this now?
They can't. They could have the policy now, and many of them do. Most of them, in fact, I think they all do. But this would give the Board of Visitors the ability to enact a policy that would have the force of law. It would make it a Class 1 misdemeanor.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator McDougal.
if they have the policy now, why wouldn't it be a trespassing Class 1 misdemeanor if somebody violated the policy?
Well, if
They might be, correct me if I'm wrong, but counsel, would they not be, does possessing a weapon automatically make you guilty of trespassing?
Mr. Chairman, no, but if the policy is that it's not permitted and then you come onto the property, if you do that at your own business, that would be the same effect. What's the difference?
So people who are authorized to be on the campus would be charged with trespassing if they had a weapon, you're saying now?
If that's what they
Okay,
voted
that was my
for.
question to counsel. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chair, if the higher education university or college does adopt that sort of policy, then yes, it would be.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Marston.
I think right now, it's my understanding that current law would be the school can have policies against it, they can kick you out of school for violating.
it's basically you're in violation of the policy, but this adds a criminal penalty. This makes sure that when they pass the policy, you're guilty of a criminal penalty. And it respects the regional differences by saying you can do it at UVA but not at UVA Wise unless the board at UVA Wise authorizes that. And all this bill says is that schools ought to be able to enact the policy to protect the people on the campus.
Thank you for bringing this forward. Is there a motion to adopt the bill as amended or the amendment in the nature of substitute?
Second.
All in favor of reporting this to the full committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we know two noes. Okay.
Usual suspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Deeds.
Senator Williams Graves.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brave, what's your bill number?
It is Senate Bill 1110.
We'll direct our attention to Senate Bill 1110.
Thank you. Senate Bill 1110 is one that you all have seen before. It did report out last year. It makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor for any person who intentionally, knowingly or intentionally possesses in the building of any hospital that provides mental health services or developmental services in the Commonwealth. This is a bill to not only protect hospital workers, but it is also designed to protect hospital patients as well as visitors to the hospital. And just in short, there are more than 3,700 weapons that have been found in hospitals, 2,044 knives, 296 box cutters, 159 tasers, and 108 handguns. And so this bill would, again, make it a Class 1 misdemeanor to knowingly and intentionally bring a gun or weapon, rather, that would include a taser or any explosive into the hospital. It also calls for notification at every entrance of the hospital, letting folks know that this is a Class 1 misdemeanor.
Thank you, Senator. And this exempts individuals with written authorization from the hospital, like security or...
That is correct. That is correct. It also exempts individuals that are there for like TDOs and things of that nature.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator Williams-Graves? Okay, I'll,
Mr. Chairman,
Senator McDougal.
it's not a question, but it's the same argument in the last bill. Hospital wants to ban these right now. The private entity, they could do so. It doesn't have to be a statute.
Mr. Chair, Senator McDougal, it is treated, if I am not mistaken, as a trespassing charge. It is, this makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor with legal language that gives the hospital the authority to remove the weapon and have the individual arrested.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator McDougal.
trespassing is a Class 1 misdemeanor, and based on legislation we passed a couple years ago, if you are charged with trespassing, we now take your DNA to check it against the database to see if you've committed any other crimes, where this would not do that. So the trespassing charge is one that you could argue is more protective of the community than this one. This also has a intent element that's in there. So the government is going to have to prove that they intentionally did this and not accidentally did it. Whereas the trespassing, you don't have that intent element. Just so you know.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions or motions? There's a motion to report and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, we'll note our 2 noes. Thank you. Did you have another?
Nope, we're good. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Senator DeStaff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have Senate Bill 941, which is the first bill. 941. And this is one that basically adds the air or gas-powered weapons to the statute on robbery, which is a Class 3 felony, and there is a Woodruff amendment put in for this, budget amendment for this. And with these air-operated weapons, they come in 22 caliber, 20 caliber, all the way up to 50 caliber, and where a standard Kimber 45 caliber handgun fires at 850 feet per second, these will operate and fire up to 1,750 feet per second. So with air having more stopping power and causing more damage than a 45 caliber handgun.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDougal.
And maybe council can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I guess a couple years ago, we changed the robbery statute. It used to be robbery was taking money from a person with some sort of threat of force. Then we changed the robbery statute to say there's one class of robbery if you use a firearm, one class of robbery if you threaten the use of a firearm, another class of robbery if you use a knife, and then the lower class if you don't use a weapon in the robbery. So I think what this one does is says, because this type of device is not a firearm by definition, it would move it from the section where it says not threatened with a weapon up to the section where it would be treated like a weapon. So that's because for most people, when they see this type of device, they would think it's a weapon.
Okay, thank you. Senator DeStaff, are we aware of these weapons being used in robberies here in Virginia?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. We're actually aware of them, and we had a Commonwealth attorney and committee who these have been used in shootings and killing somebody. And they couldn't charge them with murder with a firearm because it wasn't classified as a firearm. Again, it has the stopping power, or more than the stopping power, of a firearm.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Morrison.
This was a technique used by youth gangs in Northern Virginia to, hey, just arm yourself with an air gun, and there's no issues with it. And so I think this is a good bill.
I think there are some issues. Senator Counsel, can I ask, is it already a misdemeanor to brandish these weapons under 18.2-282?
Mr. Chair, it is not.
Okay. And further, is it Does this deal with replica weapons or only with these actual weapons or weapons that look like them?
Mr. Chair, it doesn't address replica weapons. It's only air or gas operated that look like a firearm.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions or motions? Okay, there's a motion, a second to report. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? I'm going to abstain on this one.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much. I'd like to also note that here locally in Richmond, the Commonwealth Attorney came up to me and they're having an issue here in Richmond as well. So Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm so used to Louise being the chair, I'm Madam Chairing, but so I apologize for that, Senator Evans.
No offense, Dave.
That's okay. I used to chair this committee, so, but we don't look the same.
The second one we have is Senate Bill 1220. No, but your dress is very pretty today, so.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair,
What about my attire?
Mr.
You look
Chairman,
handsome, Adam,
Good answer.
always.
Mr. Chairman, but today is somebody's birthday, and so they are dressed very appropriately.
And happy birthday, Madam
For
Chair.
their birthday.
Yeah, let's.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I hope to look that good at 59 too.
So in that,
I'm gonna, yeah, right.
we have a substitute on Senate Bill 1220.
Okay.
And after, let me explain what the substitute does. After,
Let us move to substitute
oh,
first.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so there's
I
a motion
apologize
for the
profusely.
substitute and a second. So all in favor of adopting the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have the substitute. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the substitute on this is very simple. It changes in it shall be unlawful for any person who has been convicted of a violent felony as described in subsection C of 17.1805 to possess an air-operated, gas-operated weapon similar in appearance to a firearm. And again, the exact same reason as before. The issue that came up after the last committee and the reason it was changed to a violent felony where folks use these weapons for hunting, and there were folks who had check fraud, and we didn't want to stop them from hunting, so we worked with the groups who had issues with that, and everybody's on board with this now, classified as a violent felony because those who need to hunt for their families can use these as they can a crossbow or a muzzleloader.
And the substitute narrows the new prohibition to violent felonies into possession, is that right?
Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Senator Eastaf? We've adopted the substitute. Is there a motion to recommend reporting or otherwise of the substitute? So moved. Okay, that's a motion and a second of the substitute. We'll signify our support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that bill is recommended for report.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much, and happy birthday, Madam Chairwoman.
I'm celebrating my 40th birthday twice. Plus one.
Senator Salim.
Okay. Senator Salim.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have two bills. We'll go to start with SB 484, if that's all right.
848?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the age requirement for purchase, which is identical to your bill from last year?
That is correct, yep. There was no changes to this. It did get vetoed by the governor. This was a party line as well.
Okay, this was 21 or older to purchase
Correct.
an assault firearm, is that correct?
Correct. Assault firearms. And then we made some exception to include law enforcement who would be exempt from this, given some of our law enforcement individuals may get into the defense side at the age of 18.
Are there any questions for Senator Salim, or are there any?
Move the bill be reported.
Okay, that's moved and seconded to be reported. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so we have two noes. And then you've got 891, is that right?
Yep, 891, purchase of a firearm. This is the waiting period where no person shall sell a firearm unless at least 5 days have elapsed from the time the prospective purchaser completed the written consent form with the dealership, or I'm sorry, the licensed dealer. This was identical to a bill that I had last year that got put into a separate bill. And it's, again, the same bill from last year, party line, and the governor also vetoed it.
Okay. So unless there are any questions, I will entertain a motion.
Move the bill be reported.
Okay, a motion and second to report Senate Bill 891. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 2 noes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the committee.
Thank you.
Senator Hackworth.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have a amendment in the nature of substitute I need to move.
Okay, this, we have a, this is a amendment in nature of substitute with some technical changes. Can we have that passed out and a motion to adopt that? Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adopting the substitute, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the substitute is before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was contacted by one of my local towns, the town of Burke's Garden, and they are licensed to do fireworks in their town, and they found out that per statute, they must pay a $300 permit fee plus $95 per hour. And so they asked us if we could help them with that. And so we talked to the fire marshals, and they actually have this amendment. They are good with it. They said there was only one such permit that was issued last year, $300. And so there is no immediate, we got the fiscal impact, so there is no immediate anticipated fiscal impact. So I asked that this committee would
Okay, this
approve it.
reported from general laws unanimously, basically letting smaller localities have a waived permit fee for a fireworks display, and
Correct.
That's the bill. Are there any questions or motions? Okay. Is there? Okay. It's moved and seconded that SB 1248 be recommended to the full committee for reporting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Senator Hackworth.
Thank you, Senator.
Happy birthday.
Senator Perry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Good morning.
I have 2 different bills, and there are 2 substitutes, but I'm not going to move the substitutes. I got them. Sorry. It's okay. There's a substitute for each one of the bills, but I got the substitutes about 6 o'clock this morning, and I don't really like either one of them, and so I'm not going to move them. I'll work on them, and if I end up amending, it'll be on the floor.
Okay, you can talk to council about what was
Yep.
in them.
No big deal.
Okay. Let me ask council, the substitutes didn't have any fiscal change, right? It was just, okay, so let's hear the bills as came from courts.
Sure. So the first one I'll look at is SB 883. That's the boyfriend loophole bill. It's the same bill I carried last year in the same form. It just seeks to close the boyfriend loophole as it exists here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, to make sure that individuals who commit domestic violence against their dating partner, as opposed to someone they're married to, or have a child in common with, that their firearms would be taken from them if they were convicted of such an offense.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this. Are there questions for Senator Perry? Okay. If not, are there motions? Is there a motion to report?
I'm gonna move it because it came out of, that
Yes.
came out of court.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a it's the Woodrum impact, yeah. Okay, we've got a motion and a second that 883 be reported. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, so that's 2 noes. Thank you. And then your next bill is 886.
The next bill is, Senate Bill 886. This is, seeks to look at the definition. Last year, I did a bill that matched up the Virginia code with the federal code for auto sears. Those are devices that turn a a firearm into a machine gun, this creates a definition for some other devices that we are seeing through 3D printing and other things that that also turn a firearm into a machine gun. So this was asked to be brought by Everytown to help us cover some of the other devices that we're seeing on the market.
Thank you. Are there questions for Senator Perry? Is there a motion? There's a motion to report and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, 2 noes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Senator Boysko.
Good morning. Happy birthday, Madam Chair. Today we are considering my firearm storage, safe storage bill, SB 1134. This is a bill that passed through the House and the Senate successfully last year and was vetoed by the governor. It would require any person who possesses a firearm in a residence to store their firearm safely when they know that a minor or a prohibited person is in the house where the firearm is present. It also requires firearm dealers to post a notice stating such firearm storage requirements and the penalty for improperly storing a firearm, which sets a Class 4 misdemeanor, exactly the same as last year. The language is exactly the same as past. There's not a determined fiscal impact. I did provide 3 budget amendments to go with it to help people in low-income situations through the Lock and Talk program have access to purchase the firearms. There is money, a budget amendment that I put in for the Department of Corrections, because I understand that not all of them have the safes, and also a placeholder for the Special Reserve Fund for them. In the event of a Class 4 misdemeanor, I do not think that there's any jail time associated with that, though.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for Senator Boysko?
No, it was reported and referred to the court, so
Yes.
I moved that the bill be reported, recommended bill.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that it be reported. All in favor of adopting or recommending for reporting SB 1134, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, 2 noes.
Thank you.
Senator.
Senator Favola.
Good morning, Senator.
Thank you. Good morning. My bill is Bill 747. I understand that staff may have a slight amendment. What this bill does is prior to sentencing a juvenile for a crime, the judge may ask for an evaluation, a comprehensive evaluation, including behavioral health issues, mental health issues, disability issues, so that information is available before sentencing. And the language actually talks about these evaluations could be done by appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, let us move the
Okay, I've got a
substitute.
motion to adopt the substitute and a second. All in favor of adopting the substitute, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Continue, Senator.
I was just going to say, I don't have the substitute in front of me, but I've been advised by staff that I discuss the public agencies that may be available to go ahead and do these evaluations, and I believe staff would like to remove the phrase "and private agencies," and I think that's probably a very smart idea. It's likely going to reduce the fiscal impact.
Yes.
So.
Could we get counsel to explain the substitute language on line 177?
Yeah, Counsel, could you explain the substitute, particularly line 177?
Mr. Chair, Senator Lucas, the change is to strike private agencies. Essentially, as Senator Favola described, the bill directs public and originally private agencies to do an evaluation if the court orders it, so it's permissive for the court. This would have it be only public agencies that do it, which is consistent with what is often done by the court anyway. So essentially, it just strikes private agencies, and it would be public agencies conducting the new evaluation. And then there's one additional technical change that is just a code reference that was need to be added in.
Thank you. Okay, Senator. Thank you for bringing this to us. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or that's the spirit of the bill?
I was just going to say that this bill follows a stated goal of the Senate for many years, that diversion should certainly be considered when you're sentencing a juvenile. They benefit most at an early intervention, so they can gain insights, grow, find other pathways besides behavior that might come in conflict with the law. So this is the time to intervene.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Sarah McDougal.
I understand diversion. I don't see this as diversion, but what's the difference between the court ordering a social history now and what this is?
There may not be a difference, or there may be a difference. Social history is provided to a JDR judge, and sometimes the social history is comprehensive, sometimes it is not. That is why my language is permissive. And studies show that the more often assessment information is provided, a judge is more likely to come up with a diversion option for the youth.
Of course, I'm just looking at the substitute now, but because we just got it. But interdisciplinary team,
yes,
I think is what we would usually refer to as a FAP.
That's correct.
And so, my question, and maybe council knows, is I thought court could already do this. So, are we saying they don't have the authority to do it now?
No, this is reminding them that perhaps they want to consider these factors in sentencing. That's all it's doing. A judge may or may not do it. It's permissive. It's just sort of placing this in the sentencing section of the code with the hope that, the judge at least considers these factors in sentencing.
Okay, counsel says that's accurate. Is there a further question or motions? There's a motion to report and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain. I'm going to abstain this because I just hadn't had enough time to look at this legislation, the new language, to make sure that it's okay. I'll run it by some people before morning's up.
Happy to talk with you. We did have a broad stakeholder group. We had attorneys, and
Let me just conclude the vote. Is that 2 abstentions or 1 abstention? 2 abstentions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and happy to continue to talk to you, Senator McDougal.
Okay. What do we have next?
Mr. Chair, we've reached out to Senator Bagby and Senator Stewart. One thing we could do is do the subcommittee member bills. So you have 2 bills. I believe you were going to present Senator Locke's bill for her, and then Senator Marsden has a bill that are up while we wait for the other 2.
Okay, Senator Marsden, do you want to start?
Thank you. Can I do it from right here, Mr.
That'd be great.
There we go. I'm sorry. I was a technical assistance advisor for President Obama's National Forum on Youth Violence Prevention, which is a 10 major city effort. The first question we would ask, really, when you got there, was where are the guns coming from? And the answer to that in Virginia is cars. And just giving you a brief history, in 2010, a bill came over from the House that changed our law from having to have a concealed weapons permit to conceal a weapon in a vehicle to anyone could do it as long as it was locked. The bill went up to the governor. He changed it from locked to secured, and which means just not rattling around, in the door slot or shoved down between the seat and the center console, or in some way kept from moving. And that's where the trouble began. And over the past 10, 12 years that this bill has been in effect, we've just had an outbreak. 4 of our cities are in the top 25. Richmond's in number 4 for weapons stolen from cars. They're in the 600s. Portsmouth is, I think, 9th 10th, excuse me, and with 209 guns being stolen. Henrico's in the 200s, Chesterfield's in the 200s, Norfolk's ranked 9th. It's just a huge problem. The state police will tell you, they'll show you pictures of kids going up and down the street shaking car doors and taking guns out of cars. They're traced back to some murders and accidental shootings. It is something, if we just take the law back, it won't have an immediate impact, I don't think, but over time, as people get the idea that you need a concealed weapons permit, they'll stop this casual placing of guns in cars where they forget they're there, and people just come by looking to steal them. I've tried before just to do some civil penalties around keeping guns in unlocked cars. The governor has vetoed that, but it's time we got serious and took the law back to pre-2010 where we didn't have any problems with guns being stolen from cars. And that's what the bill does.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions before we vote?
I don't have
Bill?
I don't have a question. I do have a statement. I just think that this is the wrong approach. We have people who are using firearms to commit violent offenses. We have the opportunity to make sure, not a deterrent, but make sure they're not on the street. This is people who legally possess it. They cannot have a violent felony offense or any felony offense in their background unless they've been restored by the court, possessing a firearm. And we're now going to say, if you put it in your vehicle, you're the criminal. I just think it's the absolute wrong approach. We should be focusing on the people that are committing the crimes, not on the people who legally possess a firearm that's protected by the Second Amendment.
I'd like to comment before we vote, and I'm going to turn it back to Senator Marston. I think what we're trying to do is instill a sense of responsibility with gun owners not to be careless and leave their weapons in view in cars. This is contributing to bad outcomes.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Our concealed weapons community behaves very well, and they're very responsible with regards to weapons. I've actually voted for guns to be allowed in bars with concealed weapons permit holders because they are responsible, and leaving it in the car is more dangerous. And we have a situation here where this is a conveyor belt of guns to the wrong people here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And responsible citizens will know that, and if they are responsible, Senator McDougal, they'll obey the law and get a concealed weapons permit, which means that they're going to take our laws seriously. We can't catch these folks breaking into these cars very, very rarely. It's just almost impossible to do that. And this is a conveyor belt. This is aisle 6 at Walmart, just pumping guns into the elements of the community where we do not want them.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Marston. I'll recognize Senator McDougal for another comment.
Mr. Chairman, that's not what this bill does. This bill says if you have it secured in a compartment in your vehicle, it's not laying on the seat, it's not laying on the dashboard, it's secured in a compartment, that now you're going to be guilty of the offense. So I just want to be clear what we're talking about. This is not somebody walking by a car and seeing a gun on a dashboard or a seat. This is them breaking into a vehicle, taking it out of a secured area of a vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make one more
Marston.
response. One of the most favorite things right now is taking the gun and shoving it down between the seat and the center console, which is considered secure. The handle is showing. It's put in the door slot where that can be seen from certain angles going in. Those are the two favorite places where these guns are being stored. It's not a question of being in the glove compartment or anything else, but now there's so many guns in cars in some of our cities that people don't even bother to look as to whether there's a gun in there. They just assume there's probably a one chance in 5 or 6 that there is a gun in there. And we just have to stop this pipeline that's getting into the community, and people who are serious about gun ownership will do the right thing and get a concealed weapons permit and get the training necessary to keep that gun in the car safely.
Thank you, Senator. Is there a motion to report? Move to report. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that 1329 be recommended for reporting to the full committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Okay, that's 2 noes. Okay, and then we'll go to Senator Locke's bill if that's okay. Senator Locke's bill is, I've got it right here somewhere. That's 757. It's on page 15 of your packet. This bill establishes a felony penalty for any person who knowingly and intentionally causes an unmanned aircraft system, a drone, to enter the property of a contracted defense facility and obtains or attempts to obtain any videography or still image that contains or reveals controlled technical information. It's precipitated by a real-life incident, I believe, at the shipyard of sensitive defense manufacturing. It was reported from courts on a 13-0 basis. Are there any questions for counsel or for me?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to report. I think that this is a good step. I think it is probably a initial step. There needs to be additional legislation, not just for defense contractors, but there for other sensitive areas like some of our power generation facilities that are very sensitive as well. So this is a really good idea. And as you said, this was a situation where a Chinese national was spying on the United States nuclear subs and nuclear carriers, and they were caught trying to escape the country after they had a malfunction with their drone in the western part of the country and returned. And the only available criminal offense at that time was a misdemeanor, and it was foreign national sponsored government. So I'd move to report.
Thank you. And there's a motion and a second to report 757. Thank you. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, I would. It's identical to last year's bill.
Yeah, there's a motion. Second. And a second that the bill be reported. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, did you record your news?
No.
Okay. Bill is recommended for reporting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My next bill is Senate Bill 881, dealing with ghost guns, including plastic firearms and receivers and unserialized firearms, prohibiting them with a penalty. It's identical to the bill from last year. And
Except for technical update?
I'm sorry, there was a technical update.
Okay.
Yes. I think people are fairly familiar with it.
Yes, we are.
But we know these guns are advertised for people who can't pass a background check and are dangerous and untraceable.
Are there any questions? Okay. There's a motion.
Second.
And a second that the bill be reported. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Noes? Record your nose. All right. The bill is recommended for reporting.
Thank you.
Gavel back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Stewart's bill is which bill? What number?
It's 926.
Okay.
And so without objection, we can request that the bill go by for the day.
I think
Unless-
I would like to.
Unless, Senator McDougal, do you want to present the bill on his behalf?
Madam Chairman, I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't think it's a complicated
Sure.
topic. This adds Virginia Marine Police to the definition of law enforcement. And so when you do that, the physical impact is that there could be jail time if you were convicted. I think there's mandatory 6 months if you're
Yeah.
convicted of assaulting. And so that's where the Woodrum impact comes. I think it's pretty straightforward.
So if I could, I just want to note or ask confirm, this would have a mandatory minimum for assault and battery of a Marine police officer. And is assault and battery include, like, if you just raise your hand and touch the officer? Is that?
Mr. Chairman, assault is defined as the imminent fear of unwanted touching. battery is an unwanted touching.
So shoving or touching a Marine police officer would result in a 6-month mandatory minimum with this bill?
If you spit or touch and it's unwanted, yes, it could. If assault is, like if the imminent fear of unwanted touching, like if you threw something at somebody, even if you did not hear it at them, that would be under assault. There's a lot of case law out there that goes through these specific things.
I'm going to be a no, and I don't want to defeat this bill without him here. Is this bill going to, if it's going to pass, it's fine, but.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we make a recommendation, and then if Senator Stewart in committee wants to come back and have another bite of the apple, then he could do that. But I do think it's a pretty straightforward policy decision.
So I guess Senator McDougal moves and Senator Billion seconds.
That's correct. Yes.
That we recommend for reporting Senate Bill 926. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
2 yeses, and any opposed? No. Okay. Okay, so it was 2 noes and an abstention.
I'll let him take another bite of the apple.
Yeah, well, he'll speak. So do you want to record a vote now?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 3 recommended for reporting, 2 noes, and 1 abstention.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
6 of us. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. And then, what did we, okay.
We have Senator Bagby's bill, it's the only one that's left.
Okay, we have a substitute that would delay the enactment and also make an exception or clarify that inmates in medical isolation would not be subject to the recreation requirement of the bill. Okay, so is there a motion to adopt the substitute?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
And a second? Second. Okay, all in favor of adopting the substitute, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So the substitutes before us. This bill prohibits isolated confinement in state correctional facilities.
Yes.
So for more than 17 hours a day, for more than 15 consecutive days in a 60-day period. Are there questions or comments? Oh, Senator Bagby's here.
Oh.
Great. Senator Bagby, on your 1409, we adopted a substitute that would delay enactment by 1 year and also make it clear that inmates in medical isolation would not be subject to the recreation requirement. Okay. And then did you want to comment before we vote on the bill?
No, it's a bill familiar to all of you. Everyone's voted on it before.
Okay. Is there a motion to report the substitute?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll note 2 noes. Wow, that clears our docket. I apologize for the late start, but thank members of the committee. Yeah. Oh, can we have a presentation from staff?
Mr. Chairman, so this is just, I'll just run through this quickly. If you look in your binders, it's number 2 under today. What this is just a summary of all the member amendments for both public safety and veterans, and they're in 2 categories. So today we'll just briefly go through member amendments with no legislation reference, since the rest you'll see is bills. I'm not going to hit all of these, but I'll just kind of go selectively, and please feel free to interrupt me with any questions. So the first one is one you saw last year. You may be familiar with the payment in lieu of taxes funding that the Commonwealth used to do. This is asking for payment in lieu of taxes just for Sussex County. I think it used to be about 9 or so that qualified. Going down to line 3, DCGS work group, this came from Senator Perry. The idea is that there might be some opportunities to use AI with the review of body-worn camera footage to reduce the manpower. Moving down to line 4, as you all are well familiar, there's been some declines in federal funding for sexual and assault and domestic violence services agencies. This is to backfill a portion of that loss compared to, I believe it's 2018. Line 5 from Senator Locke, this would expand the Safe for Communities program to Newport News, Hampton, and Chesapeake. It also has some language that would require all the funding to go to community-led organizations as opposed to currently being more flexible for localities. Line 6 from Senator Locke, critical response graphic mapping for public colleges and universities. This is emergency plans being digitally downloaded. We do this now for K-12, so this would allow funding to go to public institutions of higher education. I'm going to move down to line 9, Senator Boysko, and there's no rhyme or reason to me skipping, just ones that have more explanation. Court-appointed special advocate program, CASA, there had been a study last year, potentially expand that statewide. This is a follow-up from that study. Line 10, Senator Perry, there was a similar amendment last year. Kind of what's changed, so this is for drone replacements for local law enforcement agencies. What's changed since then is the federal government has, as part of the NDA bill, they're expected to outlaw some mostly foreign-made drones, and so this would allow local law enforcement, it would help them out with the cost of that probably going to be required replacement. Senator Hashmi has an amendment, YWCA Richmond Domestic Violence Shelter and Campus. This is a new service that they're going to be providing for Henrico Chesterfield, Richmond, for domestic violence survivors.
Is the money for capital construction one-time costs?
It is one time. The way they end up structuring it is for startup funds, so it wouldn't be for capital, but it'd be for like hiring and training, and it would be one time, but just not the capital portion of those startup costs. I'm going to move down to line 17, Senator Payne and Senator Craig, aid to localities with police departments. This essentially, as you all well know, the code says that the increase should keep up with the general fund revenue growth. This is that calculation. State has done it sometimes and not other years, but this would be what it would be to comply with that code requirement. I'm going to go, unless there's any questions, to page 2. Line 22, Senator Rouse, cancer screening funding for professional firefighters. This would essentially allow $300 per, I believe it's career firefighter, for them to do kind of a basic screening for cancer. Moving down to line 23, this is a complement.
Is that for all professional firefighters or for ones that were in high-risk incidents?
This one is for all professional firefighters. There is a bill that you all will see probably at some point later, but the Emergency Toxic Exposure Fund, that would be basically screening and treatment, but targeted to folks that have been exposed to toxic materials. This would be broader to be all full-time career firefighters.
Thank you.
Line 23 is a companion. You'll remember in the introduced budget for the compensation board, there's a 9.3 increase for sheriff dispatchers, so the 911 operators and sheriffs dispatchers. This is for Virginia State Police dispatchers who primarily answer pound 77, but sometimes also we're getting calls that are referred to them through the 911 operator. Line 25, Senator Hashmi, you'll remember last year this came over in the introduced budget. So essentially, there's 2 med flight operations that state police runs the planes, and then either the county or a hospital funds the personnel staff. Last year, the request came over as general fund. Currently in the base budget, what the base budget would do is basically take that money from trauma centers through taking money from the trauma center fund and redirecting it to this purpose of the personnel. This would move that to general fund, so that's really a question of funding source. The base budget would provide this. This would just switch it to general fund. Line 26, body-worn cameras for Virginia State Police. This is both the cost of actually the software and the equipment for getting those body-worn camera for about 2,000 officers, but it also funds about 9 staff to review the footage and make sure they're compliant with FOIA requests and things like that. Line 28, Technology for Troops. This is a nonprofit providing technology assistance, both the hardware and training for veterans. And then line 29 is expansion of an existing cemetery. They're projecting that down the line they won't have enough interment space. So this would be the operating costs for the land acquisition, or I guess capital costs for land acquisition to expand that. And then line 30, Senator Perry, a study that the Department of Veteran Services would do of gaps in services for veterans in Virginia. That concludes my presentation, but I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. On the cemetery on line 29 expansion, where is that cemetery?
Suffolk Cemetery. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and do we know if there are needs at other burial grounds around the state for expansion too, or is that unique?
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question. I'll reach out to the Department of Veteran Services. I think there's only 2 or 3 state veteran cemeteries, but that's a good question. I'll reach out to the department.
Okay. Were there other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I had 2. Line, I guess it's 6 and 12, Senator Locke and Senator Pillion's. Is the only difference that those are in different fiscal years, or are they the exact same other than that?
Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougall, that's my memory. That's the exact same except for the fiscal year.
Okay. At some point, maybe can you check whether why we would do it, which year would be better, why we would pick one year over the other, if we made that a priority?
Mr. Chairman, typically, and Senator McDougall, typically we would do it in the first year if it's a one-time cost. I'm 99% sure this is a one-time cost, so that's usually where you would do that.
Mr. Chairman, additional
Senator
question.
McDougall.
And on line 26, the body-worn cameras, I know we've had conversations about body-worn cameras before. Is that $5 million for the purchase of the cameras, or does that include the personnel to review them and ongoing cost? What?
Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougall, about $4 million of it is the upfront one-time purchase, and then it's about $1 million ongoing for the personnel. I'll get the exact split for you, but it's roughly in that ballpark.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Senator McDougall.
and I guess the personnel cost, how much is the ongoing technology cost too? Once you buy the equipment, I think you still have to pay for the database.
Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougall, that's a good point. The ongoing is about $1 million, and that would include the ongoing maintenance and the personnel as well as the upfront, but I'm going to confirm that for you all. I think it spells it out in the amendment for the public, and then I'll confirm it for you all as well.
Can I ask, on line 28, Van Valkenburg, Senator Van Valkenburg has tech for troops, $500,000. Do we know what that is?
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's essentially a nonprofit that provides both the actual software and computers as well as training for veterans to help with their transition into civilian life.
Thank you. Senator Hashmi, did you have a question?
I just wanted to answer your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm familiar with the program. They take computers and refurbish them and then provide them free of cost to our veteran communities.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Senator
Senator Pilley and I were just talking, the reason I keyed in on the body cameras is not because I'm negative to them. The number just seemed really low, just in what other law enforcement agencies have articulated. So we could confirm, because it just seemed low. And maybe stuff has gotten cheaper, I don't know.
And do we know, is that cover all state police, or is it only a portion of them?
Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougall, so yes, and again, I'm going to confirm all of this, but my memory is that yes, it covers all sworn officers. I believe the reason the upfront cost is lower is because they just updated their dash cam. So like a couple years ago, it was I think 50 million or something much bigger that we had seen. That was before they had updated their dash cam. They did it in a way that makes it more compatible. So I think that's what's kind of on the front end cost, lowering it. On the ongoing, I will confirm with exactly what that 1 million ongoing is.
Mr. Chairman, and so this would anticipate they would maintain the dash cam, not replace the dash cam for this.
Mr. Chairman, yes, this would be in addition to the dash cam.
Is that conclude this portion of the presentation?
Yes, and that should also conclude the meeting, I believe.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, 1300.